Well, hi, everybody. To all our viewers out there, we're glad that you're with us for another episode of Continence Chat. We've got a special guest on our show today, Shepherd Ellis, who is an outside sales manager with Spring Branch Medical Supply, which is down in the Houston area of Texas. And my colleague Susie is here with me as well. So I think probably the easiest way is to just jump right in, Shepherd, if you wouldn't mind, for our viewers, if you could just share a little bit of your background. And as an outside sales representative, I know you've transitioned from inside to outside with Spring Branch, but
Right.
So our audience can get to know you, just what your background is all about.
Oh, well, thank you very much, Deanna and Susie. Glad to be here. Well, I'm originally born and raised in the sun and fun capital of the world, Miami, Florida, as Jackie Gleason used to say. All my life I was there, went to Florida State University in Tallahassee, majored in business with a minor in finance. And I was fortunate enough to get recruited out of college by the Hartford Insurance Group back in the 1900s. And they wanted me to become a commercial property underwriting trainee and be trained in the Houston regional office. And so that's how I made the transition from Miami, Florida, or Tallahassee, Florida, to Houston, Texas. And so I was with the Hartford for about 5 years, insurance, and then I moved back to Houston and worked for an insurance agency for 15 years. And then the last 22 years of my insurance career, I was with Tokyo Marine, a Japanese insurance company. I was the first American in this particular department in the United States, so it was quite an experience for me. So overall, I had about 42 years of property and casualty insurance. I retired from there, then started my own little business for a while. But the way I got into the medical supply business is my wife was diagnosed with early onset of Alzheimer's when she was 64 years old. She just turned 72 in April. And that was fine. I was her caregiver. Actually, to begin with, I was a single parent, primary parent, when my daughter was 7 and my boy was 5. They're now 39 and 37. So in a sense, I was doing a lot of caregiving then as a single parent. But when my wife was okay, I was being a caregiver. I had some caregiving help so I can go play golf or do whatever. But then she got a wound that was infected. And so I needed to really hire caregivers full time. And that's when I decided I was going to go back to work. I didn't want to go in the insurance business. And Faisal, Spring Branch, needed me, as an office manager. That was back in 2021. The retail business is very challenging, and it was challenging for me because learning how to do the computer and everything. So Faisal and I decided that we needed to bring more people into the store. We needed to get more visibility. And that's when we decided that I would be outside sales. And with outside sales, basically I'm going to networking events on senior living communities, independent living, assisted living, memory care, skilled nursing. And from there, developing the contacts to bring people into the store. But then we were fortunate enough that a hospice company that I was doing networking with decided that they wanted us to look at their supplies, their non-durable supplies, which are more of the incontinent products, which is what we're talking about today. With the briefs, the pull-ups, the wipes, the gloves, peri-wash, cream, underpads, and things like that. And so I've been doing that since October of 22, basically. Yeah. And so that's what got me into the industry, and that's where we're at today.
Wow. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Boy, that's interesting to enter the home medical supply business peak of COVID.
I was right after COVID. Well, COVID was like 2019 to 2021. So it was like at it was still COVID, but it was end of the pandemic, so to speak, when I first got into it. But
Yeah. Yeah. I guess you're right. I guess you're right. I always think of, for some reason in my mind, I feel like for us in the incontinence business, that this has been the first year of a true reset. I'm going to call it. I felt like in 2023, people were still having challenges and it just wasn't full fledged. So, so I guess you're right though. It was probably more 21.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, wow. And so your store in the Houston area, I know you've got a big showroom. Do you have a lot of foot traffic of caregivers that are coming in that are caring for loved ones, or do you have a lot of professional paid caregivers, or a mix, Shepherd, of folks coming in?
It's kind of a mix, well, Susie's been in the store, so it's a large store for a medical supply store. It's 5,000 square feet. About 65% of our customers are family caregivers. Okay. Also, a lot of people who just come in and they need a boot because they just had ankle problems, or they need orthopedics, for sleeves or things like that. But a lot of them come in that are just family caregivers. Then we have also, the professional caregivers. And now we're also working business to business where we're getting hospice and home health companies. But about 65% of them. And, we have the incontinence products, we have the wound product, we have all the mobility, the hospital setting, so it's a mixed bag of what they're looking for. But I'll tell you what's interesting about this business is most people who come into our store don't have much of a clue of what they actually need. Most of them, a lot of people come in of various ages, but a lot of them we see are those that are like 60, 70, 80, 90 years old. It's the first time their husband, their wife, whomever has ever been in the hospital. And a lot of the people that come in don't know much about incontinent products, to be quite frankly with you. Most of the people, I think, well, you know this better because this is your business, but a large percentage of people still get their incontinent products from the grocery store or from the internet. They were where when they come to a medical supply store like Spring Branch, they get education. That's one of our main duties as an employee of a medical supply store is to help educate our customers. But the thing about a medical supply store, typically anyway, especially in our area, like I said, one of our number one priorities is to educate people. Of course, we're a for-profit company, so we have to sell the products, but we don't do any upselling. We do up-caring, okay? Because they might be coming in and looking for, like, say, for example, you guys, a Seni product, an undergarment, but maybe they're not so familiar with the wipes they need or gloves, or that they need some cream, or especially when they come in with wounds. A lot of them haven't even seen a wound doctor. So you're right, Susie. In our business, there has to be that compassion. We do get a lot of foot traffic. Maybe we get 30 customers a day. It's not like a mattress firm. We only get 5 customers in a day, but and a lot of times they come in and they might not buy anything because we want them to think about it. In fact, I was in a store today, and this lady and her mom were coming in to talk about their aunt, I think, who was getting out of the hospital, and they needed to know more about transport chairs compared to wheelchairs. They were looking at the bedside commodes and things that they could help with her during the transition coming from the rehab back to the house. So most of our customers that come in there, unless they know exactly what they want, they're going to be there for 30, 45 minutes or an hour, just looking and listening and learning. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's critical. And I know you mentioned people aren't familiar with incontinence. I think I always call it deep in the weeds. And I know with your story that you've shared with me about your wife, until someone is deep in the weeds where every night they're changing sheets, they're changing soiled clothing, there are messes that happen there, negative outcomes are taking place, then they're deep in the weeds, and then they absorb, they learn real quickly. Whereas a lot of folks, unfortunately, just because of the stigma often tied to incontinence, when they reach that point, they're headed to the store, they look on the shelf, there's lots of options. I don't think if I was in the industry, I would struggle. How do I know which size? How do I know which one? And so forth. So I love the fact that you do the education, and we're appreciative of the opportunity to work with you folks and provide education to your other staff members as well.
When I have a customer, sometimes when I'm there, Crystal or Faisal will say, hey, you need to talk to Shepherd. And I'll give them the story about Nita, my wife. And I always talk to them that you need a real good incontinent product because, one, it's going to save you time. Well, first of all, it's going to help your wife or your loved one, because if it's not a good product, it's going to leak out, and that can wind up with skin deterioration, and you can get, the bed sores or the pressure sores. Plus, your caregiver or you are going to have to change the underpad. You're going to have to change the bed sheet, just like you were talking about.
And I think it ties to sleep, or can tie to lack of sleep, because even in your situation, you're working every day. And so as important as it is for your wife to get a good night's sleep, it's just as important for you to get a good night's sleep, and at least to wake up in the morning and start off with that restorative sleep in play that helps you navigate. I always think, Shepherd, my heart goes out to you. You've got a lot on your plate, right? You work, you've got and there are so many folks in your situation, but I think the sleep at night, because I can't imagine those folks that every 2 or every 3 hours they're up, they're changing, and then what? In the morning, you got a pile of laundry before the day has even begun. You didn't get your sleep, and it can get ugly from there. You could snap at coworkers, and it just all ties back to ripple effects. They can go positive or they can go negative, and so yeah.
I have another example of a friend of mine whose father has Lewy body dementia, which is really a tough one. They act out at night, even they're sleeping, they're dreaming. I said, well, how's your mother doing? Oh, she's not doing that great. I said, does she have another bedroom so she can go in there and sleep? And he said, well, they're of the Hispanic culture where the wife would never do that. The wife needed to be where the husband was. I go, well, man, you better start watching your mother, because your dad, what he's got. Your mother, if you don't watch her, she's going to be in worse shape than your dad is. And that's what happens with family caregivers. They don't get help in time, and they don't give themselves any respite where they can get away and rejuvenate themselves. And then their health, as you know, in this business, all of a sudden their health starts going downhill. So,
yeah.
But whenever I go to these health fairs and I have our display of all our products, and I have on the bottom the skirt where it says Spring Branch Medical Supply, a lot of times they don't want to come over and talk to me. A lot of the seniors, 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, they're almost in denial about things, and they feel like they're not old. If they get this, they're going to feel like they're old. And I tell them, well, you are old. You're 84, 90 years old. Let's get you things. You're not a spring chicken anymore. Get the products, get the help you need, so that you can enjoy your life as well as being made whole, that you're taking care of your loved one at the same time.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. And I know we had sent you out some samples for your wife to try, and you had good results. I think you shared with me or Susie or whatever recently that positive for your wife with the samples.
Right. The briefs that we had worked out great. The caregivers, what they liked about it, well, not of course, but the absorbency level. And when you have a good absorbent incontinent product, that means you're not going to have to change them as often, because their urine is going to be pulled away from their body and trapped in there, so you don't have to change them as often. Your wipes, the Seni wipes, they're longer, they're bigger, they're more gentle. So we really enjoyed the wipes as well. And then you also sent us a sample on the cream. I mean, not the cream, the lotion, which is good. And I told you earlier that I gave some of the samples to my caregiver who had another, and they just reordered a case of the Seni pull-ups. We just had that. Yeah, we had that shipped to them. They'll get it tomorrow.
Oh.
And yeah. So, that was yeah, they're very good products. And that's what people need. Sometimes we get a little hung up that it might cost $1 or $2 more a package than you get like with the grocery store incontinent products. And so people who are on a tight budget, which a lot of seniors are, $2 can add up. But as we said earlier, that better incontinent product, the better absorbency is really going to pay off more for you, because you're not going to have to do as much work and you're not going to have to change it as often. But, it is something that's sensitive to people, that there's, a little bit more cost than you would get at the grocery store, but it's well worth it as well.
Yeah.
Well, you're offering solutions, and with those solutions, you're eliminating their frustrations and also providing peace of mind.
Correct.
And I spoke with a client just yesterday. She hadn't slept in a year and a half, and was realizing how out of it she was, and that she was making an adjustment with the incontinence product, because she had learned that she could sleep 8 hours through the night with a Seni product on, and wake up feeling fresh and dry. And she was astounded. She goes, "What will that be like?" It had been so long.
Yeah. Sometimes individually, we don't know what's happening to us, right? It takes someone from the outside to say, "Shepherd, are you getting enough sleep? Something's going on. You're not, things are not clicking the way they would," and sometimes it's challenging for us as the family caregiver to actually recognize that.
Thank you for sharing your story. I know it's helpful insight, so we appreciate you.
Thank you very much, and thanks for having me.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
Okay. Y'all take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye now.